Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Straight Jacket White Rabbit. As always, I'm your host, Adam. Today I wanted to get into some more of the paranormal, specifically spirits, ghosts, and things of that nature. I want to start off with a little bit different of a topic than I normally talk about with ghosts. I want to talk about spirits that are good, or at least not malevolent or evil. Too much focus is put on to spirits attacking people and sensational stuff in horror movies, regardless if it's based on true events or not. There are tons and tons and tons, you guys, of evidence and stories of people who see loved ones, who contact children, who contact people who are known to have been peaceful people, celebrities even. There's been many type of ghost encounters over the years, you guys, and a lot of them are not evil spirits, okay? Too many times nowadays, you see people using things like provocation in ghost hunts, and that's not something I necessarily believe is useful all of the time. Now, that being said, provocation works really well sometimes, you guys. It really does. But it tends to work more with spirits who are angry, entities that are not human spirits, demonic spirits, whatever you want to call them, shadow people. Provocation works with these entities just fine. We know this from trial and error of doing it hundreds and hundreds of times. But you guys, not all spirits are bad. So provocation not only doesn't always work, but sometimes it will impact your investigation in the opposite manner. Instead of getting ghosts to respond with activity, you can actually get spirits to not communicate with you because they're either fearful of you, they don't like your aggression, whatever you want to call it. Especially I've found with, spirits of children. There are many people who have many different explanations as to why spirits are here, and the truth is we don't know, you guys. There's not just evil people, there's not just one religion of people, there's no real common denominator, you guys. Okay, people say, well, Christians who weren't baptized can't move on. Some people say in some religions that if you don't follow their religion exactly to the letter, you don't move on. Some people just think that a traumatic experience nails you to the other side in a certain area, kind of spiritually imprisons you. There's a lot of different things, you guys, to be honest, that could be the cause of this. And we don't know. We pretend we have ideas. We pretend we know, but we don't know. But I want you to keep this in mind. If you're ever out on an investigation, you guys never start with provocation. Now, that's not saying you can't move into provocation if there is an appropriate reaction from a spirit, scratching, pushing, threats on EVP. I've gotten a lot of those, ghosts telling people they'll kill them or get out and being all malevolent about things. Then provocation might be warranted. I also urge you guys to use caution when using provocation, okay? I always do. It can step things up incrementally quick. But going back to the good spirits, you guys, there are tons of people. I get so many emails and letters and just people walking up to me who know I do what I do. And they tell me, well, I have a spirit in my house, but it's not me. And I think it's like my great grandfather. And I'm like, yeah, that happens all the time. And they seem almost shocked by this. You guys, just because you're a ghost does not mean you did anything horrible in your life. Does not mean that there are ghosts of people we know of that, regardless of the scientific community, we've gotten EVPs from ghosts specifically stating their names, and answering questions on a very driven basis, whether it's through an EMF detector or making a REM pod go off or even electronic audio phenomenon like EVPs. But the point I'm trying to make is, we know that there's good spirits. There were people who were good people who died, whose spirits are still left behind. And this raises an interesting question about the afterlife, as we call it. What keeps us here? Why do good and bad spirits alike stay behind? These are very deep questions, and they're not as easily answered as a lot of people think. And a lot of people try to go to religion first. But the problem with that is there's not a single religion out there that can explain the good, the bad, the religious, the non-religious. There's literally spirits from every walk of life that we can tell, on every continent. So, are these people just choosing to stay here on this realm so that they can be near loved ones? Do they choose to stay behind? Do they have a choice to go somewhere else? These are the big questions that I really want answers to eventually. I don't know how long it would take to get these answers, or if we'll ever get them. But it is an answer that I will always ask. That's one of the questions I ask on a lot of my ghost hunts that I have gone on. I'll sit there with my little electronic recorder and I'll say something to the effect of, what's keeping you here? Why are you staying behind? And then, of course, you give your pause and you wait for responses, and you can do either a live review right then, or you can just ask more questions. And then once you're done asking all your questions, review your footage at the end, or your tape. But it's a question that I've had in my back of my mind now for quite a while, and I'm really intrigued to know why it is certain spirits stay and certain spirits go, because I've encountered spirits of both kinds. I've encountered what I believed very truly were innocent childlike spirits. I've experienced spirits that absolutely did not feel like they were malevolent. They were almost answering questions on command through lighting up REM pods and things like that. And not to mention, you can kind of get a feeling. When there's something malevolent around you, it's kind of like having a really angry person right next to you in the room. They give off that energy where you just kind of know someone's pissed. The air gets thick and tense. And it just kind of changes the whole atmosphere of a room that you're in when that happens. Now, one of the other questions I get a lot is, how do I know if my loved one who passed away recently is, hanging around? Or there's lots of things you guys can do. Talk to these entities. A lot of people think it's crazy, and a lot of people won't do it. If you honestly believe that there is someone that you know who's in your house, or a loved one who's passed away somewhere, or you're visiting their grave and you can feel a presence, I encourage you guys. Digital recorders are not that expensive, you guys. They're super cheap. We live in the technological age. Get a digital recorder and find these things out for yourself. Sit there in your house or wherever the location may be, turn on your digital recorder and just ask some simple questions. I recommend you give usually about anywhere between 15 and 30 seconds in between questions so that you have a chance to capture whatever response there is. As always, there's certain things you want to do and certain things you don't. Try to make sure you're in as quiet of an environment as you can so that you don't get any kind of interference noise on the tape. And ask questions. Be specific. Is there somebody here? That's a specific question. But if you want to know who they are, you ask them, can you tell me what your name is? Are you related to me? Are you my Grandpa Joe? A lot of people shake this off as being a weird thing to do, so they don't do it. But then they ask people like me if I think that that's the case. And I always recommend do it yourself. It's, $20 or less to get a good digital recorder nowadays. You don't have to have some super high-end, like all the little bells and whistles digital recorder. You can go down to Walmart and get a digital recorder, take it home, goof around with it, practice with it so you know what everything does, and then do a session. Now, that being said, you guys, there are entities out there, and I'm not going to say whether they're human or non-human because I honestly don't know. They could be both. There are good people, there are bad people. Figures that be the same way with spirits. But there are spirits who will pretend to be innocent people, even people you know. There are spirits who will pretend to be children in order to lure you into communicating with them. So always approach things with a bit of skepticism. If you really want to make sure who you're communicating with is someone that you knew, like if it's someone you knew, like a relative, try asking things that only they would know. Also, if things start getting dark, if they start communicating negative messages or nasty messages as far as your health or threatening messages, anything like that, you guys, they're probably not your loved ones. And there are people who go through this. They contact me and they say, hey, I was communicating with my grandfather, and all of a sudden he's telling me to go kill myself in this EVP I captured. I'm not trying to say this to hurt anyone's feelings, but chances are that wasn't your grandpa, okay? Chances are that was a malevolent entity. These things mess with people, they trick people, they lure people into dangerous situations. There have been reports that certain spirits have been known to try to lure people into places where they can fall or be pushed, like stairwells, even empty elevator shafts in abandoned buildings, things of this nature. So just please, you guys, be careful when you're communicating with the other side, because we don't know everything there is to know. And when it comes to the other side, we don't really know jack. It's all a lot of guesswork for the most part, and I mean, rightfully so. Most of us haven't died. And even of those of us who have died don't have super detailed, vivid accounts for the most part of the experience. Now, am I saying everyone who's ever come back and said they've had an experience after life and they remember it is bogus? No. I'm not that guy. I'm not a lie detector. What I'm saying is that there are malevolent entities out there who will pretend to be your loved ones. There are doppelgangers out there, which are... Some people believe that doppelgangers are more like shapeshifter type creatures, skinwalkers almost. I do not believe this. I believe doppelgangers are a form of spirit, you guys. I believe doppelgangers... Now, there's a lot of lore saying that doppelgangers, if you see your own doppelganger, you die. I don't believe that you die. I believe they can possess you. And I believe they can possess you with a very small amount of effort. But that's a story for a whole nother time. The whole reason I'm going down this is just be careful when you're out doing investigations. Ask questions. Try to get repeat answers, repeated, repeated responses in any way, whether it's from a REM pod, like I said, or an EVP, or even just a basic knock, or, even reoccurring footsteps. As long as you can prove that you're the only one there and there's no one around and you're hearing footsteps, pretty good indication. Now, I have just talked a little bit about good spirits, and I want to get back to that for a second. Like I said, I don't know why good spirits stay behind. It could just be because they want to see their loved ones grow up, and their loved ones' and they want to keep an eye on their families. We don't know this, but they do stick around. We know this for fact. People have been communicating with the dead for a very long time via seances, via all kinds of manner of things. And we don't know why they stay, but sometimes they do. And, sometimes it's nice just to acknowledge them. Sometimes a spirit, that's all they want, is acknowledgement. They want you to acknowledge that they're there. I had a friend of mine growing up whose aunt, I'm going to keep his name out of it, just he knows who he is, but his aunt actually believed there was her father that had passed away and was in her house. And I told her, I was like, you should try just acknowledging him and, saying hello and, hope you're okay, things like that. And just see what the energy feels like afterwards. Because things were feeling tense in her house. Not bad tense, but just... there were odd things happening. There were lights turning on and off. She'd hear footsteps. And it was progressively getting more and more. Well, one night in her room, she decided to take my advice and try to ask if this was her relative that was at the house. And she got a positive response. I'm not going to share. It was something personal. But it was something that they had only said to her. So she was positive that she was contacted by this member of her family. And sure enough, once she communicated with it, the activity didn't completely go away, but the feeling of uneasiness did. And the activity did slow to a lot more reasonable rate that she could deal with. She didn't end up getting rid of her house or anything, and she stayed there for many years. These type of instances are far more common than like the Amityvilles or the Haunting in Connecticut's or the, any of the other paranormal activity, the Annabelles of the world and things of that nature. Those are the one-offs, you guys. Those are the oddball occurrences. And they're usually at, being very ironic here, places that had a very troublesome history, we'll call it. I'm not going to necessarily say all of it was violent history, but violence certainly doesn't help produce an atmosphere that's not have a lot of negativity in it. That's why I tell people, you want to get aggressive spirits. You do what they show in like the TV shows, the Ghost Hunter Internationals and all of them. You go to prisons. You go to war sites, Gettysburg. You go to, murder sites. You go to the Lizzie Borden house, the Valeska Axe murderer house. You go to, the post office that stands where the murder castle once stood for H.H. Holmes, where he killed many victims. You go to these places, and you're almost guaranteed to catch a malevolent entity, a dark entity. And rightfully so. These places are usually festering in negative energy, which, in my opinion, is what draws in these negative spirits. These spirits seem to feed on despair and anguish and anger and angst, that tension. And I find when you go to these places like battlefields or, abandoned prisons, abandoned asylums, and people go, asylums, there's not a lot of anger in asylums. There really is. There's a lot of mistreatment back in the day. There's probably a lot of mistreatment now, as much as I hate to say it. But there was even more back in the day, you guys. I mean, mental institutions are one of the best places to get malevolent entities, dark entities. And I'm not saying they all are at mental institutions, but for some reason it is a breeding ground for dark spirits. And I'm going to say for some reason with quotes, because we know the reason. These places were just shy of torture cells back. Is just, I mean, not even 50 years ago some of these places closed, you guys. I mean, the first place, I don't know if anyone knows this, the first place that did a lobotomy with an ice pick, the doctor literally brought the ice pick from home to work to perform this procedure, where they put it up into your eye right here and into your brain with a hammer and an ice pick, you guys. This is the way this first one was performed. I would be a ticked off spirit if you did that to me too. I mean, between the lobotomies, between electroshock therapy, between cold water submersion therapy or ice bath therapy, or any of these other archaic, inhumane practices, you guys, These places were places of suffering, and not just suffering, but immense suffering. And I do believe that this is why negative entities tend to navigate towards these places. You want a better shot at getting just a normal run-of-the-mill, spirit with no real bad intentions towards you? I recommend graveyards. As always, you guys look into the law in your area. Don't be like, well, Straight Jacket White Rabbit told me to go to the cemetery. Look into the laws. There's public hours where you can go in and do things, and there's non-public hours. You also have to usually, you don't have to. Usually it is appropriate to get a hold of the place that you're doing an investigation, especially if it's on private property, because then you need to get permission. And just work it out with the people. A lot of people are very into this, and even if they won't admit it out in public, I've had people I thought there was no way, no chance they were going to let me investigate on their property, and they did. As soon as I brought it up, they were like, oh, of course, yeah, no, I'd love that, as long as you share with me what happens. So you never know unless you ask, number one. And number two, everyone's got somewhere near them that they can investigate that's haunted, you guys. Everybody. This is a large world, and it is full of death. It has been for millennia, okay? Since our creation of our species has been dying. Ghosts go somewhere. So, just by that logic alone, there are literally ghosts everywhere. Now, can all of them communicate? We don't think so. We don't know, but we don't think all of them can. And we don't even think all of them stick around in the veil, you guys. I'm not saying every person who ever died is a ghost. I don't believe that. I believe that they do move on somewhere. Where? I don't have a clue. Be it heaven, be it hell, be it reincarnation, be it another dimension, or another separate reality. We're energy when we die, guys. Plain and simple. You are energy. I am energy. Everything else is just meat, bone, and water. Okay? The essence of what makes you, you, is inside of you. It is the electrical impulses running through your system. The energy inside of you. Okay? And people have been trying to debate this for years. And you guys, we literally produce electricity in our bodies. It's there. You can measure it. There's electricity coming off of every human on this planet. I don't believe that that's coincidence and it's just there. Okay, I believe that is the essence of who you are, what you are as a person as we know it. And you can't destroy energy. You can move it, you can transfer it, you can change it, you can even shape it. But you can't destroy it. So it's got to go somewhere. Now, for those of you who want to go out and do a ghost hunt, I urge you, please, share your results with me. If it's a quick video or you get something cool, maybe I'll post it on my channel. Do an episode about similar things I've done. I'd love to get my channel big enough one day, guys, that I can actually go out and start doing some good productive ghost hunting near here, and maybe even do things like, I don't even know, a giveaway or a raffle of some kind to have one of you guys come do an investigation with me if you're local or if you're able to get here, here being Colorado. Now, that's in the future, so it's neither here nor there. But I would love to be able to do this, you guys. I absolutely dig the paranormal and the supernatural. And like I said, I am not a rich guy, okay? I am very lower, or I can't even say middle class. That'd be just a lie. I'm poor, guys. But you don't have, my point is you don't have to have a lot of money. And a lot of people go, I can't afford this. I looked online and it's, $200 for a REM pod or something like that. And yes, there are a lot of rip-off people out there that'll try to take your money and jack up prices on things like that. But you can find deals. And like I said, you don't even need anything to try to do this. You can go out and just talk and see if you get a response you can audibly hear. And as for cheap equipment, digital recorders, flashlights, the touch-sensitive lights, the ones where you can just walk up and touch it and it turns on, those are great for investigations, guys. So you don't have to have a lot of money to get some tools under your belt to go do an investigation in your own neighborhood. I'd love to hear about some of the local haunts in you guys' towns. What are some of the places in I know everyone in here has a story about somewhere in a town that you've lived that you know or you believe is haunted. Because I've lived in a lot of places in my life, guys. I'm a gypsy practically. I move from here to here to here to here to here. And I'll tell you right now, everywhere I've ever gone, I have found somebody who's like, man, you wouldn't believe how haunted this one place is. In Albuquerque, there was a shut down mental asylum in downtown Albuquerque. Crazy haunted. Just absolutely haunted. Out in California, there's a few good places where I was. Out here in Colorado, there's a ton of places. There is places everywhere that you can go do these investigations. So go out, do your investigation, and, ask some questions. But don't start with provocation, you guys. Use provocation if there's a reason to. If you're getting nasty responses, things like that, like I said. Just start out with general questions, Is there anybody here? Is there anybody who wants to communicate? You get an answer to something like that, you move on to harder questions. When did you die? What year? How did you die? You can ask, very upfront questions. Are you a good person? Or were you a good person in your life? How come you're stuck here? These are all types of questions you can ask without being provocative. Like I said, however, I'm not going to tell anybody how to investigate. These are just my own viewpoints on the subject. But remember, some of these people, you wouldn't want someone communicating with your dead aunt going, come on, you freaking witch, show yourself. I know you're here, using provocation like that. That's disrespectful. And some spirits will actually not show themselves if they feel like you're being hostile. There's been documented cases where ghosts have come up to certain people, and then someone comes in doing provocation and they won't show up. They won't say a word. They don't come up on any EVPs, and they're just gone. They didn't leave. They just don't want to talk to you. It's like normal people. If you come up all rude to someone, do they want to have a conversation with you? No. You wait till that person is rude and then you provocate. You know what I mean? You push buttons and you keep pushing it forward and forward. But until then, keep it classy. Just ask good questions. Another thing, you guys, as weird as this sounds, and this is not just for little kid spirits, you can go get those cheap rubber plastic balls from Walmart. The big bouncy rubber balls. They're like that big, or some of them are huge, but you only need one like this big. Put it on the floor in a spot where you can get it to stay, where it's nice and level, and try to get a spirit to push it. Hey, could you do me a favor? Hey, if you're here, why don't you try to move this ball? Even a little bit. Just try to move it towards me if you can. I've never been in a place where I've gotten them to move things that easily. Sometimes it's taken quite a bit of time. I've asked someone to do it, and all of a sudden, 10, 15 minutes later, all of a sudden it moves like a foot. So some spirits don't necessarily work on command, you guys. You guys have to be patient when you're doing these types of things, especially with call and responses and things like that. But just stay wary, man. Another thing I want to talk about, we talked about the good spirits. I want to talk a little bit about the negative spirits some more, you guys. There's certain things you never do, okay? When dealing with nasty spirits, you don't ever want to stoop to a certain level of anger. Nasty spirits will say things. They'll say bad stuff. They'll say personal stuff, especially darker entities, shadow people, demonic entities, things of this nature. They will say and do things that will test the very core of who you are, because what they're doing is they're chipping away at that armor you have of self-protection. Okay? Every piece of self-doubt, every bad idea in your head, all of this stuff, they will use against you. And this insecurity and fear and angst and all these things can work against you in an investigation versus an evil entity. That being said, there are protections you can use, and I urge all of you to look them up. Different ones have gotten different reactions over the years, but certain ones tend to work more than others. I'm not going to go on here and tell you which ones to use. Palo Santo, holy water, sage, salt, crystals. I mean, there's literally, the list goes on and on and on and on and on as far as things that can weaken or ward off evil or demonic spirits. That I leave up to you. I really suggest you guys do your research, though, when it comes to this. I go overboard on things at the end of an investigation. I'm not a super religious person. I'm not a super anything person. I have my own beliefs, and I keep it very close to my chest. But even at the end of an investigation where there's been any kind of negative activity, I go full out, man. I use 3 or 4 different methods to make sure I've cleansed myself, cleansed my vehicle, made sure I'm not being followed home. And even then, I have felt things in my house here and there throughout the years that I know something had still managed to come back with me. So I urge all of you, before doing an investigation, to just do a little bit of research. You guys, there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages on the internet devoted to telling you ways that you can weaken their grip in your space, or not let them get a hold on you psychically, mentally, lots of things. So this is just the topic I want to discuss for today, and I will see you guys next time. From Straight Jacket White Rabbit, my name's Adam, and I hope you enjoyed the video.